record this. And we are recording. We are live. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. I am still drinking my coffee, getting going here, but Marty's been up doing wind sprints and everything this morning to get ready. But I want to thank you guys for joining us on this Friday morning. This has been a real fun week. I mean, especially for me. I know I see some names on here that have been on a lot of these, but, just had an absolute blast connecting with all of with all these great players and, more importantly, great coaches of the game. And again, I've said this many times that this started off with just a quick phone call once we had to cancel our in-person clinics, and talking to some of these guys that were going to do some of those programmings with us and saying, hey, what can we do? We're all going to be stuck inside and, at home for a long, extended periods of time. And it real quick was like, let's set up these webinars, and all sorts of people jumped on board. We've had the guys from Trilogy Lacrosse on every night this week. We've had Marty Bose here on every morning this week. Right after this one, we have Sean Quirk and Eric Haggerty setting up to do a goalie webinar for us. Joe Nardella did a face-off webinar for us. So it's been really cool to watch and learn from these guys. So I hope everyone's been getting something out of this. We have been recording them. They're up on the MBYLL YouTube page. Just if you don't subscribe to us, just go search for Bass Bay Youth Lacrosse League on YouTube. I do apologize. Yesterday during Marty's, I had a little technical difficulties at my house, and I lost the first 20 minutes or so of his, but got the last about 40 minutes.
Damn, KB.
I know. Well, as I said, surprising what happens to your internet when 20 devices in your house are all on at the same time with my kids. So with that, we got Marty Bose here. For those who don't know Marty, he's actually at Compete Indoor Sports in Norwood. He is the director of the Compete Lacrosse Academy. Marty's been
empty building right now.
Yeah. Marty has played in the MLL for the last 8 years for the Boston Cannons and Florida Launch. Prior to that, he played his collegiate ball at the University of Hartford, and then he played his high school ball in Quincy. And now, as I said, Marty works at Compete Indoor there. He works with lacrosse players and groups and teams pretty much of all ages. Works with a lot of our MBYLL players in towns on individual, small group, team level, works with some towns, and then works with kids in high school and up college, and even some professional players. So it's pretty cool to have Marty come on and join us this morning, as he has every morning. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Mr. Bose.
Well, thank you so much, KB. Appreciate anyone who's tuning in right now, or anyone who has tuned in to the previous sessions. This is the last one we have planned for now, and I thought it was a good one to cap things off for me personally, because this is where my knowledge base runs deepest, is in this environment where I've spent just an embarrassing amount of time if I were to really add it up, but it's important to me. So that's where some of the nuances that I've picked up along the way, whether it's emotional with my confidence building or physical, a lot of it has to do with that time that's been put into my aspirations as a lacrosse player. Right, I knew from a young age that I wanted to play professional sports and picked up lacrosse. Luckily, was able to stay healthy for all those years and have great coaches and great mentors. But a big part of it was trying to get the next step up. Right, how do I get more playing time? How do I get to that next level? Whether it was high school to college or college to pro, and then a lot in pro as well, where how do I get a more of an offensive role, or build my confidence as an overall lacrosse player. This is the environment that I personally was able to do that. So a lot of this, is hits home to me because it's my story, right? A lot of how I got better is right here. So what I want to do is I tried to list out the most fun and challenging things that I can do on this wall, and hopefully provide some context as to how you can build to that as well. The first couple here, I've got the advanced level, and then what's a simple version of that. All right, so KB, all the audio and all that good at this point? I can kind of jump in?
You're good.
Nice. He was probably already muted. He had to unmute himself.
I don't want my kids coming in screaming and yelling.
Yeah, so the first one here, we've got 2-ball wall ball. This is a fan favorite. And I'm just going to jump right into it. So what I'm doing is I'm playing wall ball with 2 at the same time, and that's it. So this is not super easy at first, but I've got a lot of my clients doing it. I've actually got middle school kids that are able to do this pretty efficiently. So what I want to break down first is that we don't need to be throwing the ball hard. So this is actually the pace on each ball. Nice and easy, all right? But when I add that second ball in, of course, I need to have the ball spend less time in my stick. So the mistake that we can make as we start practicing this drill is we feel like we have to throw it really hard, and all of a sudden now they're all coming back at me at the same time. Whereas instead, I want to wait for that ball to come back off the wall to throw this one in my stick. So if I were to make a sequence here of what I'm trying to do, it would be throw, catch, pause, right? Throw, catch, pause. So right after I catch the ball, I'm going to wait to throw until I know where that first ball that I already threw is coming back. So throw, catch, pause. Right? That pause is what allows me to read that ball that's already in the air. And this would be sort of the basic version of this, where everything is on my strong hand and overhand, or 3/4, somewhere in that area. And then you can start getting more creative with it as you get comfortable to mix in other releases, like behind the backs, or even a simple one would be a sidearm. So one's a sidearm and one's an overhand. Sidearm, overhand. This is how you can start to challenge yourself a little bit. Start to get it over to the distance side of your body. And obviously I haven't been practicing this as of late because that was not my best attempt ever. But hopefully you picked up the nuance there, which is the timing of waiting after you catch and not rushing that pass. And then here's how you can build to that, is just work on flipping the ball to yourself with 2 at the same time. So you toss one up, and then you start essentially juggling here, right? And now you're just getting used to being in control of 2 at the same time. And that's a good way to progress to 2-ball wall ball. And that's our first drill. Nice job, everybody. All right, next drill here, and this is gonna have a part A and a part B. And I think this is what a lot of you should be practicing or enforcing practice on, which is catching bad passes by our feet. So I should be okay up here. So this is my feet should be in the camera frame by now. So what I'm going to do here, I wouldn't necessarily do it from this close to the wall the whole time, but this is a good way to start it off, is I want to practice catching off a bounce, all right? When I do this, there's, you kind of hear about this actually more in baseball, where it's like you play the bounce. So you let that ball bounce, right? And if I'm a baseball, fieldsman out there and the ball is hitting the ground, I want to catch it and come upward with the ball. So that's playing the bounce. It's the same concept here. And you have to be cognizant of that, because you can make this too easy. It's really easy to make this drill very easy. Meaning, if I let this ball bounce too far away from me, well, now it's just like a ground ball. It's just kind of like right there, and I just kind of scoop it. All right, that's not really playing the bounce. All right, instead, what I want to try to do is get that ball as a lefty. I'm going to see if I can get it to bounce to the left of my foot. Instead of out in front of me, I want it to actually bounce out here, and in some cases, maybe even behind me, right? And that's where I'm going to let it bounce, and then I'm going to come up with it right after it hits the ground. So this would be a simplified version of this, playing the bounce idea. And then as you get better at it, you'd back up and start throwing the ball harder, right? And then practice catching off the bounce off in this non-stick side, which is obviously more challenging. All right, so that's playing the bounce. Really, really important for everybody to practice. And then what that builds to, all right, anyone who watches kind of the Matt Gibson videos, right, he does a lot of these fake bounce catches where he passes the ball to himself. So I want you to see this whole process here from the stick to the ground, and then just totally missed that one, and then back to the stick. So I'm actually bouncing it off the ground and then catching it. All right, so that would be our bounce catch. So after you get good at those, this is just a nice drill, because you could literally do this in your basement, right? Or depending on how your house is set up, in a particular area of your house that You feel comfortable keeping that ball bouncing off the ground. Your parents aren't going to freak out at you. But, building control in this area down by our feet and being able to cradle down here, that has to be, within context. So we don't run around like this, right, a lot. But the people who are the best at ground balls are a lot of times the best lacrosse players, right? The ones that really know how to get that ball and then do something with it, whether it's right off the ground, right? Scooping it and throwing like a backhander like that, right? Or scooping it and throwing an underhand pass. That's the quickest way you can get the ball to that next area. You obviously want to practice fundamentally scooping and getting into your face and being in triple threat, but there's sort of another level there when you get to, the higher levels. You need to make plays faster. So that's something to think about. All right, so moving right along, we've got our next one, which is catching behind the back. All right, catching behind the back. So this starts with throwing behind the back and understanding that there's more than one way to do everything. There's certainly more than one way to throw a behind the back pass. So what I want you to see right now is that this ball is leaving my stick try to catch it. This ball is leaving my stick in different distances from me. So I can have it right behind my head there, closer to like my lower back, closer to my butt, and then like way out and away and up. Those are all behind the backs, right? They're different though, right? They have different release points. And so that's important to note to start with this, because those are all areas I might have to get my stick to try to make that catch behind myself. Oh, almost took you down. All right, so we start with different behind the back passes, and then the next progression would be to throw it overhand and go back and try to make that catch behind your back. All right, and obviously this is another one I haven't been practicing enough lately. And this, what I'm trying to do right now is keep it simple for myself and get it right behind my head. So I know if I get my stick to this area, I should be good. But then as I get better at this, which hopefully is about to happen, what I should be able to do is reach out in a way and make some behind the back catches further from myself. And that is going to be where that next kind of sixth sense of knowing where your stick is, even though you're not looking at it. This isn't necessarily something that you would, do in a game. I had a conversation about this with Matt Gibson on his podcast, but it builds your confidence, right? You go into a game knowing you've been practicing catching behind your back, that regular catch, at your hip, that it doesn't seem so hard anymore, right? So confidence, it's always the key, making sure you're going into playing with confidence, right? And then I have, as a simple progression to that, is just practice flipping it and then trying to catch it behind your back like this. All right, just flip it up and catch it and try to catch it. All right, never say I can't, always say I'll try. And I need one. All right. Apparently that one's supposed to be easier. Not for me. All right. So that's how you can progress to that. Or maybe it's the other way around. You choose. And now from there, we're going to go, this is just a fun one to set up the behind the back catch. So working on your around the world throws. All right. So you bring the stick across your face. That's the first part of that around the world throw. And then you flip it over this shoulder here. So that's just a normal around the world throw. But if you notice, what's happening is a lot of upper body rotation. Or if I just throw a normal pass, I just have to turn a little bit, maybe even not at all. But with this around the world, there's a lot of rotation that happens to set that up. All right, and then for a behind the back, same idea. You see that upper body rotation more than you do for just a normal pass. So to get that emphasized, we're going to try to practice around the world throws into behind the back catches. All right, around the world throw, behind the back, attempted catch.
Hey, Marty, I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
I know probably, 5 years ago, all the, behind the back stuff was more looked at as fancy, showing off, showboating. But I think, guys like Matt Gibson and, you know,
Yeah.
the Thompson brothers, things like that have really obviously taken
And
it to art. But what do you
every
think
Canadian ever.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. What do you think the difference, or, you know, why is it important, I guess?
Yeah. Good question. So the reason it's important has the simple answer is efficiency. So you can get a ball to where it needs to go quicker in a lot of cases. The other reason is the nuance of release point. So understanding that as a lefty, when the ball leaves my stick for overhand, it leaves my stick on the left side of my body. If it leaves my stick on the behind the back, it's leaving my stick on the right side of my body. So that's important to note, because if I'm throwing a ball to someone to my right and the pressure's right in front of me, right? I'm not going to get through this wall, I don't think, today, right? So, and there's my target over there. I have two options here. I can try to throw this across my body, right in front of the pressure's face, right? Or I can roll and throw that past righty, right? Those are my two main options that we tend to focus on. Instead, what would be more functional would be to focus on a behind the back pass or a backhander that kind of gets that same functionality, where I get the ball to where it needs to go. I see that opening, but this is too much of a risky play, all right? And this takes too long, right? That's too many steps. Instead, I just throw that behind the back or turn and throw that backhander, all right? So that's the functionality of it. And then, you know, the other thing, that same reasoning as I just explained, but different situation, would be for shooting a goal, right? So if I'm a lefty, and let's say this is the goal in front of me, the goal faces in front of me here, and I'm running at an angle, right? If I shoot this lefty, I have less of an angle than if I shoot this behind the back, right? And if I'm being chased by a defender, I definitely don't have time to turn and switch hands and shoot right. So that would be the reasoning, and the functionality behind the back is it's stemmed from the fact that it releases on the other side of your body. Any follow-up questions to that?
Something like who always frustrated us, you know, John Grant Jr. has frustrated a lot of people, but for the goalie, just no idea where the ball is going to be coming from.
Exactly. That, and like you think about how good he is and how everyone respects him so much, and then you think about the skill set that he built for himself. It's all predicated upon a ridiculous variety of things he can do on his strong hand. You know what I mean? Like, he's incredible at all these behind the backs and around the worlds and one-handed in between the legs, but it's always in his left hand. He's always lefty, or he's bottom hand only, but he's still ready to be lefty. You know what I mean? He never actually went righty. Sometimes he'll put it in his right hand, he'll go halfway up his stick, and he'll just chuck a ball like this. You know what I mean? But when he starts running again, he's lefty, right? So it's I think it's really noteworthy. It's a good question. Any follow-up to that? Anyone chiming in the Q&A?
Not yet.
All right, we got some peeps watching. You know, if you got questions, or you want to see something, I'm going to turn the camera in a few minutes here. How are we looking on time, KB?
10:20. You're good. Nice.
All right, so we just did that around the world throw to the BTB catch. All right, so this is a little nuance here that I want to go over. And it has to do with the face cradle. So like you think of a face dodge, you know, that's like a common term, a face dodge. When you talk about dodging, you're talking about beating a defender. You're talking about coming at someone and trying to, you know, make them think you're going one way and go the other way. If I'm just like cradling, you know, I'm not going to call this a face dodge cradle. I'm not dodging right now. So I just call this a face cradle. And when we face cradle, there's two ways you can do it. And here's the nuance. And neither of them are right or wrong. They're just different. So one is when I bring this across, my bottom hand, in this case my right hand, is going to stay right in front of my belly. So I'm going to bring it across right like this. All right. That's noteworthy because I can get things off really quickly. All right. So I can get it over there and then release it. And then it's even coming off quicker than I want it to. There we go. All right. So that would be a face cradle into a backhander, right? But there's another way to do it, and that's where I bring it across my face and I bring this right hand back behind my body. All right, and this would be a face cradle that you'd be more so you'd be prioritizing stick protection. So if I'm coming at a defender and you're the defender, if I go like this and you throw a poke check right at me right now, I don't feel good about that situation for me, right? Whereas if I come at you and I make this face dodge, right, and I cradle there and I tuck this backhand, I'm in a good position to protect my stick and take whatever check you either poke or push. I'm going to be able to, handle that pressure. Okay, so that's just noteworthy because when you're practicing on the wall, you should be trying it both ways. So sometimes you have that bottom hand in front, like I'm doing right now, and then sometimes you have it back behind, like this. All right, so that's just a little nuance there for the people that are actually going to spend the time on the wall.
We got
All right.
2 quick questions, one's a quick one, which I think you'll.
Okay.
One was from Hunter. He's asking about dodging. It's like, what is the best dodge to do?
Change of speed.
There you go.
The best dodge to do is change of speed. The misunderstanding, I think, is in like always trying to break someone's ankles. And you need to have that agility. That's for sure. It's a huge factor. But the reason that people that have that nice change of direction is because they first got good at changing their speed, right? Strategically changing your speed. So if I move this way, am I in the frame?
Yep.
Still? All right.
Yes.
So what I would want them to understand as the person trying to get better at dodging is if you're running full speed, start from the reverse. That's the fact. Yeah, it's 100%. That's you running full speed. That's 100% effort. When you're dodging, that 100% effort should happen after you make your move, right? You want to be making your move, and then when you actually go the direction that you want to go, where you see the space that you can run to, that's when you should be running 100% effort, right? So we reverse engineer. Let's start with the mindset of getting to that open space. That's the whole function of dodging. I want to get to some open space that might be dangerous and either take the shot myself or draw a slide, right, to get the defense to rotate and move the ball to the backside. So either way, that's the function of dodging, is to create separation for my defender and get into a dangerous area of the field. So that's our 100% moment. Leading up to the dodge is, of course, how we set it up, okay? If I want to have a maximum change of speed, right, the most amount of change of speed I could have would be from 0, which is not moving, to 100%, right? From 0 to 100. Now, it's not super realistic to think I'm just going to be standing still, right, ready to run and then run, but that actually happens more times than not, because what a lot of the best dodgers in the world do is they dodge and they re-dodge, okay? They attack their defender, they bounce away from him. Depending how they react to that, they could do one of 2 things. So that would look something like this, right? Someone who's gonna dodge and re-dodge. If the pressure was to my right, I'm trying to get to you. That's the goal, okay? I'm trying to get to you. I'm a lefty and I'm running across the field and the defender is to my right, protecting, right, what's most dangerous, which is the front of the face of the goal. So as I drive, I'm going to lean into my defender, and then I'm going to bounce off of him. And then depending if he steps to me, I might keep going to my left. If he stays still, I might split and now have a nice opportunity on the target. All right, so this would be a drive, bounce, and then re-dodge, right? Drive, bounce, and then re-drive, right? So that would be what you see a lot of players do. Different combinations of that is they drive and they bounce and maybe they roll off that. Or they drive and they bounce and they face cradle and they do something like that, okay? The other thing, to come back to the original point, is getting to the 100%, right? Coming straight at my defender, right? If I come into this at like 50% or 60%, meaning I'm just like jogging fast, right? I'm jogging fast and then I make my move and try to sprint full speed, I only went from 60 to 100. Instead, what I'd want to try doing is coming and breaking my speed down to like a 20 and then burst to 100, right? So I take 1 or 2 steps, like maybe at a 60 to initiate my dodge, right? And then I'm going to slow down to a 20, little choppy steps, boom, and then I'm going to make that move and burst to 100. So that would be how you can alter the change of speed to give you a better chance of success as the dodger. So I don't think that was a quick answer, but it's important. So hopefully I was able to answer his question.
The other question you might have, or we could definitely talk about, is asking if we have or create a video on progression for new players, assuming we're on the wall ball, to start to work towards these skills that could be watched by kids. Obviously, he says, I think the challenge of learning the new skills that they could do on their own would be good. So I know you have several wall ball.
Yeah, I was
videos.
just going to say, there's 3 or 4 that I know that I've done on my YouTube channel. One is like how to get better at wall ball without a wall. I did that YouTube video a while ago. That's a really good progression for beginners. It's all about that flip to catch progression that KB, you've heard me talk about a couple times now at this point, which is, these simple little flip to catch, with specific focal points of how that should look with my fingers. That's what I work on with my beginners, and that content you can find on my YouTube page.
Cool.
Any other questions right now?
Good.
All right. Great. Sorry, everybody. 2 ways to face cradle. We just went into that. So now we're getting into more of the conceptual stuff, and this is going to be how I set up my twister. All right. So we're building to, but I want to introduce this concept of what I call the extension spectrum. Okay. The extension spectrum. So it all is predicated upon my top hand and how far it is from my body. So from your guys' view right now, I'm setting up an overhand with 0 extension because my elbow is touching my ribs, right? I'm not reaching my hand away at all. All right, we don't want to reach out, okay? When we reach, we want to reach back. All right, that's a common mistake. And it's more so like a body control things, right? Coaches are telling kids to get your hands up and away from your body, and then they just drop them and throw, right? So it's like, why? What's the function of this? This isn't really helping kids to be running around with their hands out in front of themselves. When I get my, what I try to do with my athletes is I try to get their hands to be close to their body, right? No matter what, but then they're going to be either a little bit back or way back. This would be the full extension. So of the extension spectrum, this is the one end of it. Oh, nice little squeak in the voice for all my middle school kids out there. One end of it. And then we have our 0 end of it. So that's the full spectrum from here to here. But what it really means from a functional standpoint is when I throw from this 0 extension, it stays at that 0, right? I'm not extending my hand throughout this release. I'm just leaving it right next to my shoulder. And then the opposite, or the other end of it, would be full extension. All right, and I'll show you this with one hand because it's more obvious, where this elbow is completely locked out. And I'm going to keep it locked out for the entirety of this throw release. All right, so this would be the other end of the extension spectrum for an overhand release. Here's full extension, and here's no extension. These are both overhand. They're just different extensions. And then I could do something like a quarter of the way. I could do something like half of the way. But the key is that my elbow, like this, the extension doesn't change throughout this release. It stays at that angle all the way through, whether it's all the way out or somewhere in between. Okay, so that's really important to note, is this concept of the extension spectrum, because the timing of everything that's going into one particular throw on the ball is ultimately what's going to, generate my power and, determine the accuracy. So I want to start to become self-aware of this sort of dynamic at play, to start to get more ball control and teach my kids how to have more ball control. All right, so where we want to go from there is now understanding that I can alter and manipulate this extension spectrum. So what I'm talking about right now, where I don't change it, okay, this is probably more for like outside shooting, right, where I'm going to get my hands way out and away from my body, right, and then just hammer some overhand shot. Or I can do the same thing. That could be an extension sidearm, right? I get that further away from the center of rotation. I can generate more torque. So that's more for our outside shot, right? Obviously, mid-range and inside finishing, you know, you need to be more efficient, right? So you don't see guys running around with their hands out like this. What they do though, is they're able to get out there as they start their release. So this is how we start to manipulate this extension spectrum. So I keep my hands with no extension for most of the time I'm on the field, right? Because I want to be protected. But as I start a throw, instead of just pushing straight through, I extend my top hand up as that throw commences. So I kind of start the hip rotation, but instead of just coming straight through, I come up and then through. So this is me manipulating the extension spectrum to get a higher release point, right? Who's going to tell me that this isn't overhand, right? That is definitely an overhand throw, right? And so is this, right? But this one has a higher release point because I'm manipulating that extension spectrum by altering the motion of that top hand. I'm coming up and over instead of just through and over, right? So this is a good little segue into our twister, because for twister, right, it helps to extend my top hand over to this side of my body. That's really all that's happening here, is I'm taking my left hand as a lefty, I'll go over this righty as well, and I'm bringing it over to the right side of my body, and I'm snapping my wrist over here. I don't change my grip. I'm not cradling, okay? That I can't really throw a twister from here. This would be more of like some people call this Canadian, or just like a vertical backhand or whatever. Who cares what you call it? But it's not a twister. A twister is when the ball, the face of the stick, is looking forward the whole time because you're not re-gripping, right? That is a twister. All right, so it's coming from out in front of the left side, actually coming back towards my face and my head, and then away. So the way that you can practice this twister in an environment of your own house is you don't throw the ball at all, but you practice this circular cradle, this literal twister type cradle. All right, and it's not, it's not just a normal cradle it across and back, right? And I'm not going to cradle it across and then change my grip and bring it over like this either. I want this to stay facing away as it comes across, and then I cradle it, I re-grip on the way back, okay? Because as I come over, that's going to be my throw, but in this case, since I'm just working on the cradle, I'll re-grip at this point, and this is how I can work on this twister motion. And then for you righties out there, most of you, there's our righty twister. All right, and what I'm doing into each of these is I'm doing this little pump fake. So I'm kind of pump faking, like I'm going to throw a normal righty, boom, and then I come into that twister because it helps me to try to come back towards myself and set that up. All right. And so that's that twister. It's just, a good progression of focusing on the extension spectrum for obvious reasons. If I keep this hand super close to my body, it's really awkward to throw a twister. All right. It doesn't feel very good. I want to get that hand to come out and away from my body. So a lot of what we do, and a lot of the time I spend, I've found with my clientele is like literally just like, hey, have you ever felt what it's like to pull your left hand over here? And a lot of times, like, they're not used to that motion, and I'm asking them to do it with a stick in their hands within the control of a ball. So a lot of these techniques are all stemmed from, what I'll do with my athletes is I'll literally be working on the full extension overhand, which is what I would really suggest for most of the youngsters out there, and I start it like this, just a ball on my stick, right? Or excuse me, just a ball in my hand, right? And then lastly on this subject too, just to kind of drive home this extension concept, is when you throw a normal ball, right? Football, baseball, whatever, there's this elbow snap that takes place, right? Your external, internal rotation, right? That is happening when you throw a normal ball. However, when you throw a ball with a lacrosse stick, that elbow snap is just not part of the equation, right? Because you're holding a freaking stick, right? So you're not doing this as you throw, right? You're snapping your wrist and you're kind of pushing a little bit, but you're not getting that rotation. So when you do these drills with just a ball and no stick, don't let yourself just throw it like you normally would, because that's not necessarily going to translate, right? Work on setting an extension, whether it's full and keeping it full all the way through, or none and keeping it at none all the way through. All right. What I'll do as well, because kids will cheat on this, is I'll put like usually just like a rolled up towel underneath their armpit, so that when they throw, that's not happening, right? That shouldn't drop. So we want to be able to throw without needing that push, right? I'm rotating and snapping my wrist, but I'm not rotating and pushing, because then that drops, right? Not that pushing is bad, but anyone who's been listening to my talks or anything like that knows how much attention I'm putting into the grip on the stick to promote the wrist snap, right? And if I am always pushing, sometimes I don't even get in tune with that wrist snap, right? And that's the key for accuracy. So what I want you guys to note here is that by keeping one of the extensions consistent through a release, whether it's full or none, it forces me to snap my wrist. So doing this where you get that noise is an awesome way to practice all of the different releases you could do. That moment that you hear that wind noise, that's the moment that the ball would leave your stick. And it's funny, like it's one of those drills that when I ask an athlete to do it, I get like but I want a ball, but maybe in this environment, when you're sitting at home wondering how you can get better, kids will be more up to actually try it. We shall see. And then what I want to do here now is let this translate. How are we looking on time, KB?
10:40. We're good. I got one question on here for you. It's kind of a general generic.
Perfect. Yeah, and I'm going to relocate the camera here. So
perfect.
Yeah, go ahead, shoot.
And I almost think you're going to say, I think I know what you're going to say, but whatever. Someone's asking, what do you think is the best bounce back to use if a wall is unavailable? Do you have a preference? I know you'll say you can find a wall anywhere. You found walls in strange places.
I was wondering what you thought I was going to say. So the question was, what do you use if you don't have a wall available?
They're asking if you have any preference, or like guessing, what is the best bounce back? Do you have one?
Best bounce back. Yes, the best. I got to get one. The best bounce back is the All Ball Pro. It's expensive though.
Yeah.
It's really it's pricey. I think the Stinger is like $700.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah, I'm trying to like partner with them, to be honest with you. So if you're watching All Ball Pro, freaking.
So am I.
Let's give these people some discounts here, because I think I do think it's the best product on the market. There's another one that it's like a slanted wall. It's like crazy heavy. I saw it at LaxCon 2 years ago. You might know what I'm talking about, KB. But I think that one's like around $400 or $500 as well. So I mean, look, if you have the normal bounce back, right, the trampoline version, that's not bad. But you should be hammering that thing. You know what I mean? Like, you got to throw it hard for it to even reach you, because the reason that I have to emphasize that is you can really build bad habits by always catching in front of yourself like this, right? Because that ball's not coming back fast enough. This is a bad habit to be catching down here, right? You should be practicing catching balls right back behind your head. But you could still do that with a bounce back. You just have to be focused about it. And go find a freaking wall, and go do more drills without a ball, because there's thousands you could be doing without a wall. I said ball, I meant wall. How's this? Can you see the cage and everything, KB?
Yep.
If I come too close to the camera, does my stick leave the frame?
No.
Can you see? No, I'm good right here.
You're good.
Okay. All right. So from that, what we're going to do is like this is accuracy. Okay. So this is accuracy, wrist snap timing. So what we do is we pick one release. All right, KB, I'm going to let you pick no extension or full extension.
Full extension.
Full extension. Okay. This is a good one to practice. All right. It's not necessarily what you're going to use, but it's awesome to practice. Full extension. All right. Overhand, of course, for the kids out there. All right, so this is my overhand full extension set shot. All right, that's my overhand full extension. I'll just grab my ball back here. All right, so accuracy within a given technique is gonna be, I'm gonna break it down to these two factors. All right, one is what I would call kinematic sequencing. So like, when does my hips turn versus my shoulders versus my hand? You know, what's the order of operations that just took place? That's from the ground up. That's our sequencing. But the X factor is the wrist snap timing. All right, so let's say my sequencing is the same from rep to rep. I'm gonna try to turn my hips, that's gonna turn my shoulders, and that's gonna bring my hand through. So it's in that order, all right? And hopefully, let's say I'm going for top right. Can you see that, Kevin, or am I blocking you? Should I go for top left?
Top left. Yeah.
I'll go for top left. All right.
Just hit the cage, will you?
I'll try. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to focus on snapping my left wrist right about here. So when it's within this range of motion, boom, all the way through, right at this moment, directly above my head, that's when I'll try to snap my wrist. And then I'm just going to see where that puts the ball. Okay, so this is just an experiment here. Okay, so right on the top left corner. So now what I'll do is I'll alter that timing. This is the same shot. Okay, it's the same shot. It's a set shot, full extension, overhand, right? But instead of snapping my wrist directly above my head, I'm going to let my hand come through a little bit more, and then I'm going to snap the wrist. All right, and we'll see how that affects the ball. And it brings it down. So it's on the same line, all right, but it's got a different accuracy spot because I'm snapping my wrist further along that range of motion, okay? And that's how I'm getting that ball to go down. So this is a good time to bring this up. I had a conversation with the Deemer class about this because he had a different way of looking at it, and it was actually eye-opening for me because there's two ways to think about this. One is the wrist snap timing that I just broke to you, or the wrist snap location, right? So once I did it above my head, then I let it come a little further and then snap my wrist. The other is to think about altering the sequencing. Okay, so I was talking about the sequencing, the order of operations. When do my hips turn versus my shoulders versus my hands? So what I can do is I can alter that sequencing, all right, and make that the focus to change my accuracy. And here's what I mean by that. If I let my hands stay back behind my body, so I really turn my body through, I leave my hands back here, and then I bring them through. So I bring them through as late as possible. That ball will stay high for an overhand. All right, and went way high because I left my hands back behind my body. And now I'll alter that sequencing on the other end of that spectrum, which would be letting my hands come through, then turning my body. So now I'm changing the sequencing and bringing my hands through very early, and then I get that ball down, okay? So there's those two trains of thoughts to think about it. You know, it's all relative, right? I think understanding how to do it isn't going to make you good at it. You just got to get out there and get reps. All right. What I'd say is this is a good segue into what is your quote unquote normal release. Okay. And what's the timing look like? KB, can you see my feet? Tilt this down.
Yeah. Sorry. I was on mute.
That's okay. All right. So you can see down by that white line. All right.
We're at 10:40. We're at 10:45. You got a few more minutes for me, but just FYI.
That's perfect. This is sort of my closing little follow out here. We'll finish on a leaning McTwisty. So for those that want to stay till the end, this is what you're going to be able to do. All right, leaning McTwisty. Okay. So the wrist snap timing is our accuracy. That's what we're going to focus on there. But now we're going to focus on the timing of the release itself in relation to my body language as the shooter. So first, we define our normal timing. If you roll a bucket of balls out and you just go shoot 10, 15, 20 shots, you're going to start to see a pattern of like, okay, I wind up, I set my foot, and I shoot, right? My normal is kind of like this 3/4, right? If I want to come straight overhand for the kids, let's do that. Okay, so here's my normal timing for overhand. What I want you to notice is my front right foot. When that front right foot hits the ground, I release. Boom, right at that moment. That's my normal timing. Front right foot hits, I release, okay? Now what I'm gonna do is alter my timing. It's the same shot, but I'm gonna alter the timing by setting it up the same way and then adding some extra steps. Okay, so those little extra shuffle steps can be super, super effective because it freezes the goalie, right? He's seen me shoot like this 3-4 times in a game, and then I wind up for that same shot and just delay and put it somewhere else. All right, so that's a really, really good way to freeze a goalie and add a layer of deception to your shot without really adding too much, okay? And that sets us up for this heel to toe concept. You mentioned John Grant Jr. earlier. I've seen him teach this, and it's really interesting, which is basically when that front foot hits the ground for a lefty, that's my front right foot, it's heel to toe, right? And I can take my time with that, so I can really alter the timing of my release. It's the same concept we were just talking about, but instead of winding up and taking extra steps, I just wind up and really take my time from heel to toe before I actually release. So this is a really great way. It's like one of those deeper nuances that you watch him play. You see he's not deciding where he wants to shoot until the very last second, right? He knows he's going to shoot, and he winds up for his shot, but he's like, what's this goalie doing? Oh, I'm gonna put it opposite, or wherever, you know what I mean? So there's that moment of delay before the shot actually leaves the stick. And how is he able to do that with so much control and balance? Well, it's because he's going from heel to toe so slowly, you know, at that moment, and he's able to delay his release in a number of different ways. All right, so that's one of the advanced deception techniques there. And we talked about the wrist snap timing for accuracy. And then what we want to finish off with here is just my favorite shot, only because of its name, is the Leany McTwisty, okay? It's a cousin of the twister. We talked about the twister, right? But the twister is more for like inside finishing, right? Whereas the Leany McTwisty is like a mid-range shot, okay? So let's combine them second. First, what's a Leany? A leaner, I call it a Leany. A leaner. So a leaner is simply as a lefty, I'm gonna lean to my right, okay? And I'm gonna push to my left. So what I'm telling the goalie is I'm shooting to the right pipe, but using this leaner, I shoot to the left pipe, okay? So for you, if you were the goalie, all right, I'm leaning to my right, your left, and then I push my stick that way, okay? So that's my leaner. There's no twisting motion yet, right? So that's just a true leaner. Lean one way, push the other way. For you righties out there, you're gonna lean left and then push to the right. Okay, that's your leaner. Now the twist aspect is just by, you could call it adding a little bit of flair, but this would be helpful if I was gonna try to shoot around a defender and try to get this screen, or if I was gonna throw a feed, right, and someone had a stick in the lane that I was passing instead of my normal pass, I'd come around and do a little bit of this lean and twist to make sure that my ball, you know, that the stick sees, right? The stick has eyes. So I need that stick to see the lane to wherever it's going, whether it's the cage or a teammate. So this Leany McTwisty, as a lefty, I lean to my right. I'm gonna bring my stick. Now I'm adding that twister motion, all right? And what I want this to, it's a very similar, it's the same concept as the lean, where I'm thinking lean right, shoot left, but the twister makes it really look like I am shooting right a little bit more than before, just to come back to the left. All right, I don't know many goalies that are saving that. All right, good. So that's what I have written up for us today. What I want to open up with is a Q&A. If people have questions about what we talked about, we've got about, I don't know, I'm guessing 3 or 4 minutes here to spare. So if you've got questions, send them now. If not, we can wrap this thing up.
If anyone does have questions while you're typing them in, just again, I've recorded this one, haven't had any technical difficulties, so we'll put this up on the Mass Bay Youth Lacrosse League YouTube channel. On there is all the previous ones we've done this week. And then actually coming up in just about 8 minutes, we got our goalie webinar with Sean Quirk and Eric Haggerty from Peak Goalie. So excited
If
to
you're
jump
watching that one, make sure you ask them how they save Leanie McTwisties.
Yeah. What? Like Marty Bose made that up, didn't he?
Yeah.
But nope.
No questions?
I'm not saying
No
any questions,
comments?
Marty. I think
No concerns?
I think you nailed it.
Yeah, I can't freaking nail these behind the back catches though. Frick.
But I want to obviously personally thank Marty for taking all the time this week. This is his 4th one. You know, starting Tuesday, we've been together at 10 a.m. Virtually, and he's done a great job.
My thinking was like, what are people doing at 10 a.m.? Thank you so much, KB.
No, this has been, as I said, been awesome for me. So it's been a fun week. And well, if you have any comments or even any other topics that we could potentially do over the coming weeks, please email me. I think on the confirmations that you got for this, my email's on there. So please, shoot in emails to me with any potential topics or things that we could do webinar style over the coming weeks. We'd love to try to make more things happen with that. Any, interest in Compete Lacrosse Academy and what Marty does for the local community, you can email me. You can search him out on social media. He's everywhere. Or obviously just Google his name and Compete Indoor or Compete Lacrosse Academy. You'll find him. Reach out to Marty, or again, email me and I'll connect you with Marty as well. So I appreciate it.
I'll be following up with you because I talked about a few of the PDFs along the way throughout the week. So from the overall sports psychology stuff, the 2-man game stuff, the sticks, the only stick in a ball drills, and then the wall ball stuff. I'll put together a little package that I'll send to you as like a recap of everything too. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Marty. Thanks everyone for joining us. Stay healthy.
All right, hold
stay
on.
safe.
Wait, before we break, KB, if I hit top right, you have to do 10 push-ups.
All right.
All right.
Ooh. He did that on purpose.
I wish. I really do wish I did that on purpose. All right. Thanks
All right.
for watching,
Thank
guys.
you, sir. Take care, Marty.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.